In a crowded shelter, a mother dog wrapped her paws around her tiny puppy, holding him close as if it were their last moment together. The staff prepared for the unthinkable, their hearts heavy, while the vet raised his hand to begin the procedure. But just as the room filled with silence, something unexpected happened. The vet froze, his eyes widening in shock before shouting words that changed everything. "Everybody stop." What followed was a twist no one could have predicted, a discovery that turned heartbreak into hope. Stay with us, because this story will leave you breathless. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The shelter was eerily quiet that morning, despite the rows of cages filled with restless dogs. Metal doors clanged softly, echoing down the narrow hallway, while the faint scent of disinfectant lingered in the air. Volunteers moved between kennels with heavy steps, their faces marked by exhaustion and sorrow. This wasn't just another day. It was one of those dreaded mornings when hard decisions had to be made. Too many animals, too few resources, and not enough adopters. For the staff, it was a painful routine, but for the dogs inside, it was a matter of life and death. In the far corner, a mother dog lay curled around her tiny puppy, shielding him with her body. Her fur was rough and dull, her ribs faintly visible, yet her eyes held a fierce determination. Every time someone walked past, she tightened her embrace, as though daring the world to take him away. The puppy stirred softly against her chest, whimpering with innocence, unaware of the fate looming overhead. To the shelter workers, it was a heartbreaking sight, a mother's desperate attempt to protect her child in a place where love was scarce and time was running out. Though the staff whispered quietly about her strength, paperwork told a colder truth. Her name was on the list. Her puppy's future was uncertain. And as the morning sun rose higher, the clock began ticking toward their final moments together. When the time finally came, two staff members approached the kennel with heavy hearts. Their footsteps echoed in the silent corridor, and though they tried to hide it, the weight of what they were about to do showed in their eyes. The mother dog sensed it instantly. Her body stiffened, ears pinned back, and a low whimper escaped her throat. She pressed her puppy closer, wrapping her paws around him in a trembling embrace, as if she could shield him from the inevitable. The puppy squirmed, nudging her face with blind trust, unaware of the danger ahead. As the kennel door creaked open, she let out a soft bark, not aggressive, but pleading. Her eyes glistened with tears that streaked silently down her face. In that moment, she wasn't just a dog. She was a mother, fighting against something she couldn't understand but deeply feared. The puppy nestled tighter into her chest, letting out tiny whines that pierced the hearts of everyone watching. The room grew unbearably heavy, filled with the silent ache of helplessness. The staff hesitated, their hands trembling as they reached for her leash. They had carried out this duty countless times before, but never had it felt this cruel. Her final act of love, hugging her puppy one last time, made even the most hardened worker pause. Nobody spoke. Nobody could. The mother dog was gently guided into the sterile examination room, her puppy still clutched tightly against her chest. The fluorescent lights above flickered softly, casting a pale glow across the cold metal table. The vet prepared quietly, his face calm, but his eyes heavy with sorrow. He had performed this procedure before, but today something unsettled him. He watched as the dog refused to release her puppy, her trembling paws gripping tighter as though she knew this was the end. Her eyes locked with his, pleading, human-like, impossible to ignore. It stopped him in his tracks. He placed his stethoscope against her chest, more out of instinct than necessity. But as he listened, his brows furrowed. Her heartbeat, though fast with fear, was surprisingly strong and steady. He moved to check her lungs, expecting weakness, yet they sounded clearer than he had anticipated. Confusion crept in. The records had marked her as ill, unfit, with little chance of survival. But in front of him, the evidence didn't match. His hand lingered, hesitation pulling him deeper into doubt. As he set the stethoscope down, his gaze shifted to the puppy. The tiny creature squirmed with life, its small heartbeat rapid yet vibrant. Something wasn't adding up. The vet straightened, his chest tightening. For the first time that day, a spark of urgency flickered inside him. Something about this case was terribly wrong. The vet's hands trembled as he flipped through the paperwork once more. The diagnosis listed was grim, severe illness, beyond recovery. Yet everything his eyes and ears told him screamed otherwise. He looked again at the mother dog, who now buried her muzzle into her puppy's fur, trembling but full of fight. His pulse quickened. Something about this case wasn't just off, it was dangerously wrong. He felt the weight of time pressing on him, the staff waiting silently for his command. His heart pounded as he drew a deep breath, his decision hanging by a thread. Finally, he stepped back, his voice breaking through the heavy silence. Everybody stopped. The sudden outburst startled the room, freezing the staff in their tracks. The syringe hovered in midair, inches from its target, as eyes turned toward him in shock. The mother dog lifted her head, ears twitching, as though she too sensed the shift. The puppy let out a faint whimper, the sound echoing in the stillness like a fragile plea for life. The vet's chest heaved, conviction rising inside him. "We're not doing this," he said firmly, his tone sharp with urgency. "She's not sick. This is wrong." The staff exchanged bewildered glances, confusion etched across their faces. But in that tense moment, one thing became clear. The mother and her puppy had been pulled back from the edge of tragedy by a single, desperate scream. The room buzzed with stunned silence as the vet pulled the file closer, scanning every line with urgency. His eyes narrowed, then widened in disbelief. The paperwork wasn't just mistaken, it was completely wrong. Somewhere between the overcrowded shelter and the clinic, her chart had been switched with another dog's. The mother wasn't gravely ill at all. She was healthy, strong, and fighting for her puppy with every ounce of will. The realization struck him like lightning. They had been seconds away from ending two innocent lives because of a clerical error. His stomach twisted with both relief and horror. He turned toward the staff, his voice firm now, carrying the weight of conviction. She was never supposed to be on the list. This isn't her file. The workers stared at one another, their faces draining of color. The mother dog, as if sensing the shift, nudged her puppy closer and let out a soft, relieved whimper. Her eyes glistened, no longer pleading but shimmering with hope. The puppy yawned, tiny and unaware, his fragile body pressed tightly against hers. Tears welled in the eyes of one volunteer, who covered her mouth with trembling hands. The unthinkable had nearly happened, but fate, or perhaps the mother's final hug, had forced them to stop. The vet exhaled deeply, shaking his head. "We almost killed the wrong dog," he whispered. "But not today." The atmosphere in the clinic shifted from despair to awe as the truth settled in. The mother dog, once moments from death, now nestled safely with her puppy in her paws. She licked his tiny face gently, as though sealing a promise that they would never be parted again. Around her, the staff, who only minutes ago had prepared for heartbreak, now stood silent, humbled by the miracle unfolding before them. It was no longer just another day at the shelter. It was a second chance, carved out of the narrowest escape. The vet crouched beside them, his voice low but filled with determination. "She deserves life," he murmured. "Both of them do." His words were met with nods, tears glistening in the eyes of even the most seasoned workers. No one argued, no one looked back at the paperwork. The decision was unanimous. These two were no longer candidates for the end. They were survivors, destined for something better. Hope, once absent, filled the room like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Days later, news spread quickly. Volunteers and locals lined up, eager to meet the brave mother and her puppy. Adoption offers poured in, each one touched by the story of the hug that stopped tragedy. And when the mother finally walked out of the shelter with her puppy trotting at her side, tails wagging in unison, it wasn't just a rescue. It was the beginning of a brand new life.